Hello, everyone. This is JPL, and today I'm joined with.
Jay.
And Christopher.
Yes, and we are a podcast name in brackets. Back once again for the top monthly edition of the top five. I don't know what happened there. I started to say toply edition of the month five. Yes, this month we'll be doing the top five movies of 1994. If we went back with my high school logic, where I'm like, the best movie of the decades come in the year four. So,
Okay.
um, well, let's see if that leap of logic works for this year. So, yeah, let's get into this.
Yeah. So just a quick box office overview. This is of course the year of Jim Carrey.
Oh
In
yeah,
the beginning of the year, he started Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, which was a massive hit. Enough so that The Mask comes out a few months later and is also a massive hit. And then in that time span, he had been hired to star in Dumb and Dumber. That came out and was also a massive hit. So he went basically in the course of a calendar year from a no name to the biggest star in Hollywood. Um, Massive year for him, big box office year for that. We
oh
have
yeah.
some really interesting stuff in the top 10 here, stuff that wouldn't be in the top 10 other years. Yeah, best picture winner in the top 10. That doesn't happen too often. Pulp Fiction, Interview with the Vampire, some star driven stuff here. And yeah, awards wise, best picture winner, just mentioned it, Forrest Gump. Somewhat of a controversial year, mostly in retrospect, since it beat out Pulp Fiction and The Shawshank Redemption, which wasn't a theatrical hit at the time, but would find success on TV and physical media in the subsequent years. Um, Sort of the eternal IMDb highest rated film of all time. I've heard interesting reasons behind that, just the demographics of IMDb and like when that started to take off, and how Shawshank Redemption has sort of been at the top, just like a self fulfilling cycle of it being at the top.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, the Palme d'Or goes to Pulp Fiction, and then the Razzie goes to Color of Night, which I have never heard of.
Let's get started with our number five.
Yeah, my number five is Felidae. This is directed by Michael Schack and written by Martin Kluger, and it is a German animated noir about a cat investigating a series of murders after moving to a new city. I just want to stress this before I get into this. This is not a film for the faint of heart. This is not a film for kids. This is also not a film for like if it includes a lot of incredibly violent and disturbing imagery, including depictions of cats being tortured and killed. So, if you don't want to watch cats go through bad things, this is not a movie for you. However, with that said, it's just an excellent and genuinely twisty noir film that is also animated. Like the animation aspect of it is really cool. They do some very creative stuff. There's some creepy dream sequences that I really loved. It's a little bit rushed in the first half, but it really hits its stride in the second half. It is just like a fun noir, twisty, violent, dark thing. I had a lot of fun with this one. This hadn't been released in the U.S. until very recently. Deaf Crocodile did a sort of
Ooh.
special release, and that's actually like pretty widely available. I watched it on Hoopla, which a lot of libraries have. I think it's on Tubi as well. So it went from not widely available to now it is very easy to find.
I think the important question is, does the dog die?
There are no dogs to my recollection of it.
So then
So no.
that means we all can watch it if Christopher
Sure,
says.
but the cat dies,
Yep.
Christopher.
But you know what? We don't care about
Ma-
cats. We care about
not
Oh,
the
only the
cat.
dogs.
yo,
The
get out
website
of here!
is
Get out of here! You're
the website
uninvited.
is not does the cat die? The website is doesthedogdie.com. So no,
I
I
did
do
after
like
watching
cats.
this. I did briefly go through a little rabbit hole to try and figure out like because this ticks so many boxes of things that are on that site as triggers. So I was wondering,
Uh,
oh, what's the most trigger boxes that something has ticked? And I think Old Boy is up
makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, John. I if I was to own a pet, I'd rather a cat than a dog. Just I'd let you know. Maybe
All
Now,
right.
if you were to
okay?
watch a noir film about an
Uh-huh.
animal, would you rather a dog or a cat?
Me personally, or
Yeah. No, yeah.
I honestly never thought about that before. I feel like the most
I
noir
mean,
I've gotten with animal films is the Sheep Detectives.
I
Uh,
think there's several noir films with cats out there. I mean,
it makes sense. It's like,
quote unquote noir.
yeah,
That darn cat from the early Disney film. Technically, it's a mystery, not quite noir, but it's of the time period, I guess, close enough. Um, yeah, the art style surprisingly looks very similar to the Aristocats,
yes. There's
specifically.
even a direct call out to the Aristocats.
Oh,
Oh,
interesting.
very
Um,
nice.
it's specifically a character be like, oh, this isn't like the Aristocats because there's a lot of murder going on.
I mean, there's attempted murder in the Aristocats, but never quite anything full on that we know of. Um, I've not seen this, by the way.
Yeah, this is one, John. I know you're a cat lover, so I advised you maybe this is one to skip.
Okay.
But yeah, depends on your level of comfort with that. It is very excellent, but yeah, I do want to stress that it is also very disturbing
It's animated, so
for
Yep.
kids. I feel like that's the reason it wasn't released in the US widely, is just that,
Hmm.
like, any company was like, well, even if we don't think animation is for kids, enough people will, and enough parents will take their kids to see this that we will get in
Hmm.
trouble.
So, John, within 10 years, do you think you may watch this film?
um, it's very possible that I'll forget about this film after this podcast. And then if it shows up streaming randomly on my feed, I'm like, oh, look at that. It's that cat murder movie. Oh, yeah. I think it's easier to digest cats dying in animation than in live action.
True.
So, um, yes, I
Hmm.
know. Yes. Moving on.
Well, speaking about it's easier to digest some things in animation than live action, I have at number 5 Baby's Day Out.
Oh, boy.
This film is a live action film. I about 20-ish years ago, I saw like the first half in the theater, and for some reason, I didn't finish it. Don't probably It was probably time to go home. I
Hmm.
don't remember the reasonings. Um, One of the few films I recall seeing in the theaters before age 20, I'll say. um, so yeah, so we're doing 94, and then I realized this film's in 94. So I picked up a DVD copy. It was never released on Blu-ray, so I picked up the DVD, um, and I finally finished the film. I did watch the first hour again, but yeah, it was very interesting. Like rewatching something that had been so long since I'd seen it, and like there are definitely scenes I remember and moments I didn't, but were arguably familiar. And then it's so weird past the point that I had seen and actually seen things I had never seen before, and kind of I know it's part of the same film that it's connected, but there's a detachment uh, from that because I wasn't familiar with it. So quite an interesting experience. Finishing a film 20 years later like that. There's a few other films I need to finish. So maybe, uh, who knows, maybe they'll appear in future lists, maybe not. I don't know. But
Ooh.
I took care of this one. It's a silly little concept. So the baby is actually twins. So, um, which I think is actually a pretty smart idea in terms of its production.
Mhm.
Juggling twins instead of expecting one baby to behave all the time.
And an animatronic for some shots.
Yes, and then also, I didn't pull up his name, but there was the guy, the small guy who was in Austin Power films. I Ving. I don't.
Oh, Mini Me, that guy.
Yes, yes.
Mm,
He also
yeah,
was a double in this film as well,
Vern
which is
Troyer.
yes, which is quite an interesting fun fact. Um, I think I didn't when I watched the film. I didn't notice or think about the fact that some of the shots were animatronics, um, but I watched the commentary and the director's like pointing out like, oh, okay, I can kind of see that. Sometimes it's more convincing than others, but definitely if you're just kind of just observing the film, like I personally didn't notice. Um, so yeah, it's a silly little concept. I think obviously the baby itself is the most entertaining part. Um, I don't know. I don't think the film is the strongest film. It made me chuckle a few times, a couple laugh out louds, but for me, not the strongest comedy. But so what I was mentioning about like live action animated, there was a lot of like visual effects work with like the baby like crawling out in a busy street and cars zooming by the baby and stuff, and it's kind of stressful to watch. I mean, like you're well, it being a film in '94, you're almost like, is it real? Compared to like a film that would have been released this year. And the director said like they got a lot of angry letters.
Mm,
Like, you put the baby in the street, you put a baby with a gorilla. One letter's like, I don't care how cool the gorilla is, like you don't know when the gorilla's gonna go ape wild or whatever. But I definitely knew the gorilla wouldn't have been real, but still, I mean, it looks convincing enough.
mm.
But so it's almost like it questions like it almost feels like this movie may have played better if it was animated, because it just feels too real. Because again, me seeing a baby out in the middle of the street with cars zooming by, it just feels too real. But if it was animated, it would be a lot easier to shrug off. And
I mean,
honestly,
this exact story type has been done so many times in animation. I
that's
think
fair.
there's several Looney Tunes and like Tom and Jerry cartoons that are exactly like this. So this is just a live action version of that concept.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, and I haven't seen a lot of those Warner Brothers tunes, so
Mm.
my familiarity with those is virtually zero. So yeah, it's an interesting film. There's obviously nostalgia tied to it, um, but yeah, not the strongest. But I'm also happy I finally finished it, and it was definitely interesting listening to the commentary and hearing
Mm.
some information about it. Yeah, what? It's an interesting film.
Christopher,
What?
I've actually seen this film, Christopher.
Yes, you have.
I have.
Isn't that
Uh,
wild?
that is so wild. I've seen a film that you've seen that's on your list. Whoa. Um, no, I had the VHS when I was a kid, so I watched this a lot. I loved it. I've not seen it in well over 20 some years at this
Hmm.
point. So it's been a long time. But if I ever get the opportunity that just shows up, it's like, all right, I'm gonna maybe watch it one day. I just need to get in the mood to watch silliness.
Hmm.
Um, Yes, I greatly did not appreciate the disrespect thrown at this film from Wonder Man. Um,
I heard about that.
yeah, um, I get it. People can have opinions, but that was too much. There was no need to throw shade on something like that. Okay, wasn't even relevant. I mean, it was. It wasn't. Yeah, I remember having fun with this one. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I am curious to revisit it one day.
Yeah, it's a silly little time, and again, the baby's adorable. Oh yeah, also with the baby, the director said that they used a lot of laser pointers to get the baby to look in certain ways or to crawl after in certain directions. So was pretty fascinating because initially I'm like, wow, what amazing baby actors! It's laser pointers. Jay and John are both wearing Batman shirts.
Yes.
Oh, we are. Oh,
Crazy.
very nice. Completely unrelated. I don't know. Is there a connection between Baby's Day Out and Batman?
Batman's
Did
Day Out. Baby
did did,
Batman.
did Joe appear in a? I don't know.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
On to
It happens in a city.
yes.
Oh, that's a great connection.
Yes. On to my number 5. I have the next Karate Kid, the fourth film, the one that kind of gets forgotten and lost, the unwanted stepchild, some people would say. Um, this one stars Hilary Swank, but brings in Mr. Miyagi with Pat Morita. Um, I really enjoyed this one. I think it's a great teen slice of life story of this kid dealing with issues with like family, dead parents, dead father, but you have Mr. Miyagi come in, teach her the ways of life. She's like, uh, there's boys and there's stuff like that. I think that's great. Unfortunately, when the film is like trying to do all the Karate Kid elements, it's so not great. Unfortunately, I mean, based on the title, it's like, oh, well, now everything's shoehorn. You get these villains that make absolutely no sense whatsoever because you have to have those bully villains. But like, honestly, I have no idea what they were thinking with the villains. Like, hey, you got Michael Ironside. He's a great actor. Sucks that his character is stupid. Um, I like Hilary Swank. I think she was phenomenal in this. I wish the story was better. Honestly, I wish there was no karate in this. Just Mr. Miyagi living with a teenage girl. And yeah, it's the only karate film that's not at all referenced by Cobra Kai because they just couldn't get Hilary Swank to agree to come back, unfortunately. They could have mentioned her, but they did not, which is so sad. I was so looking forward to that day, but who knows? Yeah, no.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen this. I am kind of disappointed that Hilary Swank didn't want to go back for Cobra, even though I don't have any like investment in this franchise. Just seems like that would have been a neat thing for her to do.
Just it would have been neat if they like mentions like, oh yeah, we have this other part of the family that Mr.
Uh-huh.
Miyagi went to back in 1984. Um, but no, she's never mentioned. None of those characters are at all talked about. It's as if it never happened. Yet we had Jackie Chan meet the other guy in that one movie. That just anyway, moving on.
Yeah, my number 4 is The Hudsucker Proxy. This is directed by the brothers, written by them and their friend Sam Raimi. Ever heard of him? And it is the
No,
Coen brothers' attempt at a somewhat family-friendly movie. Um, it is PG. It is mostly family friendly. There's some darkness in it, but yeah, it was a massive bomb at the time. But it's one that I think people have come to appreciate more in retrospect, while still not being like, most people don't put it as one of their top Coens. I do, but I'm a little bit, my thoughts on Coens are a little bit less in line with the consensus. But anyway, it's about an experienced young man with big dreams who arrives in the big city where he is unexpectedly put in charge of a major corporation by a board of directors hoping to tank the stock prices so they can buy a controlling interest. And then Jennifer Jason Lee plays a fast talking reporter who's assigned to cover the story, who then ends up falling for this young businessman. And yeah, it's a screwball comedy with this very classic 1940s vibe. If you enjoy that era of filmmaking, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, they're taking a lot of inspiration from that. And it's really, really funny. Jennifer Jason Lee in particular is really good and like really tuned into the screwball sensibilities of this. It has a little bit of It's a Wonderful Life in it, though this one is a New Year's Eve movie instead of a Christmas movie. So if you're looking for something to watch New Year's Eve time, this is one that is, I think, worth watching. And it also has some really, really good model work for the city. The cityscapes are just really cool. They spent a lot of money on it. This is the Coen brothers' most expensive film, I think ever. Um, and yeah, the models were so good that they actually got reused for the Joel Schumacher Batman movies and the Roland Emmerich Godzilla movie and a couple of other things as well. I'm trying not to say too much because there's so much exciting stuff that happens and it's worth discovering.
My number 4 is the Tibet Mountains, which is um, from the director who I've mentioned a few times. Um, let me pull up those names because, all right, he did So Pyun Jae from last year, and also Chun Hyung Dyun from 2000. But then I realized something that I had not realized prior. I cannot believe I didn't realize prior. He also directed the General Sun trilogy.
Oh, okay.
I'm just like, how did I? Because actually, in watching the Tibet Mountains, I was like, I, I, I didn't want to be like too presumptuous. Like, oh, you know, like this feels a little bit like General Sun, but I didn't want to be too presumptuous. But I was right on the money. Same director. Um, yeah, but it ultimately doesn't. It's nothing like General Sun, or it's more like General Sun than those other two the first two films I mentioned, which have more musical elements. General Sun is more gangster and fighting and stuff. Uh, the Tibet Mountains occurs between World War II and the start of the Korean War, so kind of like 48, 49. And so kind of just how like those tensions start to escalate. Um, and so it definitely is more of a look at how just the average person was kind of just really affected by a lot of people's different ideologies and fighting and stuff. Like there was a film that I talked about probably in the last year's list. Um, if I can pull up the name because I don't remember. It was the film being To the Starry Island, and kind of how that one we also saw more or less. I probably like the actual Korean War starting, but also just how people were affected as a result of that. And this one again before the Korean War officially started, but just yeah, things happening, man. Um, so it's a heavy, hard film to watch because of the subject matter, but I found it a little hard to watch for more subjective reasons because the film it is like 2 hours and 45 minutes ish. It's long. I have nothing against a long film, but it is long. And then I don't know Korean history that well. There's um, there's a lot of history that does happen during like those 2 years, and there's a lot of like on-screen text that appears that event happens. Um, but I don't know about any of that personally. Um, and then honestly, I also had a hard time following characters for some reason. My face blindness was just really kicking in this film. I'm just generally face blind. I don't care who you are. I'm just face blind. So yeah, this film was really kicking me, unfortunately. Um, yeah, so if you are into history and specifically this kind of history, whether it be Korean history or communist history, um, this may serve interesting. Again, it is an interesting study about how general people, humanity can suffer from events like this, and how some people are just so gung ho about their ideologies that people in the middle suffer as a result. Um, yeah. Random little thing that I haven't fully verified, but I saw some YouTube comments saying this, so it's probably true. Um, so, um, there's a K-pop group, Big Bang, and
Mm.
one of the members is G Dragon, and apparently he's like an extra little boy in this film at like the 9 minute mark.
Oh,
So after I saw the comments and I was done with the film, I went to there. I'm like, that probably is him. I don't know. I don't know what he looked like when he was a little boy, but it probably is him. And then also, like, I think he's probably in his 40s. Big Bang just is celebrating 20 years this year. So then this film being in, 94, yeah, that probably checks out. So kind of crazy. Kind of yeah, I'm just reading comments like, what do people think about this deep film? And I see a few comments that say G Dragon. I'm like, what does G Dragon have to do with this film? So that's probably what it is.
I have not seen it.
yeah, neither have I. It is interesting. There's actually a different movie coming up on my list that, like the cultural sensibilities behind something and how that can make it difficult to translate across cultural lines. That's always an interesting question. So
Yeah.
yeah, hearing that this is like obviously very based in Korean history, but kind of expects the audience to already know it.
Hmm.
So it's maybe a little bit less accessible to a non-Korean audience than other Korean films would be.
Yeah. And honestly, actually, I'll say all three Korean films I'm going to mention, I have that disconnect.
Okay.
Don't, I, I don't get them. There's
Okay.
a barrier. Um, I could talk more in detail about them, but I think as I've been like trying to discover some of these Korean films, just kind of realizing like how some of them just feel kind of inaccessible to me because I'm not aware of all things culturally, obviously, but also there's history, and I don't know all that history, and so I don't know what the film is fully trying to say or communicate sometimes. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's something I guess maybe a lot of people sometimes think about, maybe in like in fear of like watching an international film. I feel like some people can feel that, but no, like there's a lot of films where that's not the case. Even a film like popular title, duh, whatever, but Parasite, a lot of people can watch that and relate. Um, but yeah, there's some films where there's so much more to them. I think it's really cool in like what a lot of boutique labels are doing. Again, I watch all three of these Korean films on the Korean Film Council's archive channel on YouTube. But like places, Criterion obviously the big one, but like with them doing booklets or sometimes supplemental features onto discs, kind of trying to provide more context um, behind the film so that
Yeah.
you can understand and appreciate things better. Because I definitely do think that there's something for a piece to stand on its own, but ultimately it it is nice having context.
Yeah. Yeah.
It truly is, and especially as we start to distance ourselves from time periods, the context gets even muddier. So it is nice to be able to have proper understanding of the pieces of the past.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're moving on to my number four. I have The Lion King, Disney's adaptation of the Hamlet, but with animals. The Hamlet? Did I say the Hamlet or
Yes, you
Hamlet?
did say the Hamlet, not to be confused with any other Hamlet.
Yes, the Hamlet. Yeah. Yeah. So, of course, a very easy to digest film, easy to get into, easy to watch. Just a simplified, abridged version of Hamlet, with like talking animals. Very, very fun and catchy musical numbers where they essentially just took all the energy and visual iconography of Friend Like Me from Aladdin and just decided, hey, let's put that into every musical number of this film, and it's like, oh, it's visually fun and appealing. Lots of fun characters. You have like such an iconic villain in Scar. You got Timon and Pumbaa. They're fun. lots of like visual iconography. James Earl Jones is in this. Rowan Atkinson is in this. A lot of great cast members in this one. Um, yeah, it's Lion King. It's a pretty solid film. Yeah.
Yeah, this is one that I was meaning to get around to rewatching, but I didn't have time to. Because yeah, this is one of the Disney movies that I grew up with. Obviously iconic, and I mean the music is just Be
Hmm.
Prepared is like I listen to that like once a month at least. I love that song.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's yeah, it's just such a great and yeah in that way of like Disney has to remake all of their Renaissance films because their new ones aren't quite hitting the same highs, and they're always worse. And yeah, no, just this is such a great film and really enjoyable.
Yeah. Great animation as well. I mean, all of their
Yeah,
classic animated ones are great, but like this one, since they're doing animals and they have like an extra detail to the animals than they used to do, it's like, ah,
yeah,
yes, they progressed so much. And now
yeah.
we've
How
regressed.
expressive they are versus when
Yes.
you watch the remake. It's just like it's night and day. I mean, again, Scar just moving around and how much fun he's having with everything. Like, yeah, there's
Mm
just so much personality.
hmm. Mm hmm. Yeah. No. Watch this. Watch the heck out of these films as a kid.
Yep,
Yeah, so I didn't grow up with this film, so I don't have nostalgia tied to it, but I did
Nice.
watch it honestly in preparation of Mufasa, the Lion King. Um, and it is indeed an enjoyable film. So yeah,
certified
I
enjoyable.
certified enjoyable from a non-nostalgic person.
Yeah.
Or yeah, I don't know,
Yeah.
because I feel like there's a lot of things that a lot of people have nostalgia for that I watch, like Star Wars, and I'm like, I don't understand why people like this. It must be nostalgia. But King, I understand. Sorry, I had to do that to Star Wars. I did it
It's
again.
not
I
just
apologize for that.
nostalgia, but I get where you're coming from. Speaking of talking animals,
Yeah, my number three is Pom Poko. This is written and directed by Isao Takahata, and it is the story of a group of tanuki, which are also known as Japanese raccoon dogs, even though they are neither raccoons nor dogs, um, whose habitat is threatened by urban expansion, and so they decide to fight back to save their home. Sort of this classic story structure, though it takes it in a very interesting direction. Yeah, this one is I was sort of alluding to before. This is not as widely seen in the U.S. But in Japan,
oh,
this was a massive hit on par with all of Ghibli's other releases. It was the top grossing film of Japanese film of 1994. Um, and yeah, this one is very deeply rooted in Japanese culture and Japanese sensibilities. Like the tanuki are in Japan very important mythological figures in the same way that like foxes and snakes and all of those things have like a cultural connotation in the West that people will understand. The tanuki are like when you show them in something, there is like a cultural weight to that. Um, but even without this context, like this is just a really fun movie. It's easily my favorite of the sort of subgenre of environmentalist animated comedies about talking animals or other creatures trying to save their habitat. The Lorax, Fern Gully, Over the Hedge, Barbie Presents Thumbelina, Hoppers. All of those things kind of fit in the same subgenre. Um, yeah, this is just a really fun and wacky movie. I would recommend getting a group of friends together and having fun with it. Um, but most of these kinds of movies end in triumph. Barbie Thumbelina, she has successfully stopped the developer from tearing down her home tree, and now they're going to turn it into a nature preserve instead of a parking lot. And you too, kids, can save the environment if you just recycle. It's like that's not a bad message. It's movies like that that introduced me to environmentalism as a kid. But they have this sort of optimistic simplicity that after 40 plus years of this type of media just rings less and less true. So what's interesting about Pompoko is that it does not end in triumph. Some things can't be undone, some forces are too powerful to be stopped by some fun talking animals, And that isn't an excuse to do nothing, but the tragedy actually heightens the importance of protecting what's left. So yeah, this ends up being a whole lot more nuanced and complicated than the average movie in this genre. I will be honest, this one didn't really work for me the first time I saw it. I didn't care for it. Um, Even though I found the ending interesting, it has like an odd narrative structure. There's a lot of characters, and it's kind of hard to keep track of which characters are which and who you're supposed to be sort of paying attention to. And it jumps around a lot. There's a lot of montages. It's a very interesting but kind of odd structure that I understand why people bounce off it. But then rewatching it, knowing how it was going to end, I found it to be like this very profound experience, which is why I'm like, I am kind of spoiling the ending, but I think that's okay because that is, if you know going in where it is headed, um, you have a better sense of like the scope of everything and where this story is going and sort of the fun that you are having with these characters, but then also the like the tragic inevitability of their situation. And also it's just fun to watch with friends because it gets wacky and zany
Yeah,
and
you're
yeah.
forgetting to mention those raccoon sacks, Jay.
Yes, that is famous thing about the tanuki are their yeah, they're prodigiously sized. I don't know what's a good PG word for this.
Raccoon sack. That is what they called it in the film. We're gonna call it that.
That yes, those make this is one of the Studio Ghibli movies that Disney didn't touch when they were distributing things. And that is that yeah, I think that is why it is very fun, but also like yeah, if you go in not knowing what this is and not knowing some of the cultural context behind that, I can understand it being very shocking.
Totally. Yeah. I've seen this film once. Uh yeah, it didn't really speak to me in any level. Those raccoon sacks were definitely a weird choice, but who am I to say?
Again, that's where it's very like culturally
Yes.
it is
Yeah.
leaning into sort of this mythology and
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, just seeing it play out though um is an experience that I can definitely see why watching this with a group of friends is more entertaining than by yourself. Because when you're by yourself, I'm constantly looking over my shoulder, being like, "Is this okay? Is anybody gonna walk in?" Even if I live alone in the house, I'm like, "Are you there, God? Is this okay?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
this was my answer because I was like, oh, what's the like masculine equivalent of like the over sexualized anime girl? And I was
Oh,
like, this isn't that, but this is like
yes.
in that same arena, played
Yep.
very much for comedy. Like it is very intentionally played for comedy. But again, like, yeah,
Mm.
get a group of friends together, have fun with it, enjoy both like the comedy of it and the deeper profundity of it. Because it is also, while it is very fun, it is also it ends in a very on a very specific note that again
Mm.
I'm not used to as someone who grew up with, you know, Barbie presents Thumbelina. Like, yeah, this is just so different in a way that really has stuck with me since seeing it.
My my number three is Miracle on 34th Street. It's been 15 years since I've seen it. I don't really remember it. I bet it's a wonderful film. I bet it rings in the holiday spirit wonderfully. I remember elements of it, but not really enough to talk about it. It is the lead uh, minor actress
Mara
is
Wilson, yeah.
she is in Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yes,
I was
yeah.
watching Mrs. Doubtfire. I'm like, I feel like I recognize that face, and actually, it was um, actually because of the poster of a different film that I feel like I keep seeing
For
often.
Matilda,
Yeah, it was
I
Matilda.
feel like that's the other one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that poster is just iconic. So when you see that face, you're like, I feel like I've seen that face somewhere. So yeah, so same one in Matilda, same one in Mrs. Doubtfire. So, yeah. So here it is at number 3 because I bet it's a pleasant film.
It has been a long while since I've seen this film. I remember thinking it was very sweet. I can't tell you anything about it other than that John Hamm from Jurassic Park is now playing Santa for this.
Yeah. I do remember the climax scene. I do remember that. That I do remember the most. But that's the climax scene. I can't talk about that. I'm like,
I remember.
Jay right over here.
I remember.
Yep.
I remember him working for Macy's or something. I don't know.
Oh, was it Macy's?
Yes,
Yeah.
because it's
Oh, wow.
the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade that they need a new Santa, and then they hire this guy off the street who turns out is the real Santa Claus.
Wow, this
Yeah,
movie
it is.
coming back to me now.
This is one of those. My family has several like holiday movies that we rewatch pretty much every Christmas, and this was for many years one of those. Um, since then, in the years since then, we've discovered, I mean, knew about the older version. Is it 1940s or 1930s that one came out?
Yeah, around
Looks
that
like
time.
it is 47, and that one is even better. So we've kind of
Ooh.
switched over to that one, but this one is still very good and has like such a warmth to it, and it has this Richard Attenborough is just incredible casting for Santa Claus. He just looks like Santa Claus should look. um and yeah, it's really fun. It has like a very 90s New York sensibility to it, which is also there's a like one scene appearance from Allison Janney as like this mom who is like very New York mom, and just like the perfect casting for just like a blink and you'll miss it scene. This was I wasn't even a cameo at this point because she was more of like a character actor at that point. But yeah, no, this is a holiday classic for my family. It's again the other one is the better version. So if you're gonna watch one, that is the one to watch. But this is, if you're in the type of household where people struggle to watch older movies, struggle to watch black and white movies, this is a perfectly suitable substitute.
Speaking of Santa Claus, or who will later play Santa Claus, I think this year, we have an Arnold Schwarzenegger film, True Lies, which is what happens when you get James Cameron to direct a James Bond movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. And it is a hoot. Like, yeah, James Cameron should definitely be directing James Bond movies. Like the stunts, the action he has is like so much fun to watch. There's great visual effects in this one, and explosions and so much fun. Lots of like tongue in cheek references to James Bond films, starring Schwarzenegger when he's looking the best. Um, it's him being a secret agent, but he also has a family, so he's like lying to them, hence True Lies. So there's stuff about that. It's cool. It's fun. I don't know what else to say. Have you seen this,
Yeah,
Jay?
this was on my list to get around to because I am a big James Cameron fan, and this has always kind of been on my list. I bought the DVD specifically because I know it's, at least at a certain time, it was hard to find on streaming. So I was like, oh, I want to be able to watch this at some point. Um, in my viewing, because I had a weird thing happen this month where I had a top five that I felt mostly okay with pretty early on, and then I just didn't have time for stuff. So I was prioritizing stuff that I wouldn't have a reason to return to, or as strong of a reason to return to later. So since this is Cameron, I'm like, okay, at some point I am probably going to catch up on the Camerons that I haven't seen, so I'll leave this for that. But it is one that I am like excited to get around to at some point again when I have a little bit more time to.
It's also got Jamie Lee Curtis. She's lots of
Yeah,
fun.
no, yeah, she's awesome, and I am excited for that element as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, no, I
Yeah.
will see this eventually. I was fully intending to see it this month, but just ran out of time.
Mm-hmm.
My number two is The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. This is written and directed by Stephen Elliott, follows three Australian drag queens who drive across the outback to perform a show in the town of Alice Springs. And yeah, it's this really fun queer road trip movie with a really good mix of characters. We have Hugo Weaving as a sort of middle-aged queen, maybe a little bit younger, who is confronting several big questions about his future and his life going forward. Pierce is a little bit younger, hasn't experienced as much hardship yet, and is sort of a bit more rambunctious and a bit more optimistic. And then Terrence Stamp as an older transgender woman who is also a drag queen, who is sort of done with everyone else's crap and is just looking to like have a nice peaceful time. Yeah, the dynamics between these characters as they are on this road trip are so great, and then also the people they come across and how they interact differently with these different people. It's just really interesting, and we end up with some very interesting character arcs. And yeah, it's fun to see these characters be unabashedly queer, and in situations where that isn't always safe. The first small town they come to, they like step off the bus in full drag and go to their hotel in full drag, and it is sort of a challenge almost to the people of this town of like, hey, we are here, we aren't going to apologize for that. um yeah, it's so well made. It avoids a lot of, this is sort of the era, the peak age drama era. This one actually starts with a funeral for a character who has passed away, who very pointedly did not die of AIDS. So this is a bit more rooted in joy, but does have like some darker elements as well. Has some great dance sequences. Obviously, you want that with a drag movie. Has some great drag. Really empathetic in how it handles a lot of these characters. There are admittedly a few things that haven't aged well. I will talk a little bit more on that when it becomes relevant with a different movie that I'm going to talk about. But yeah, overall, this is just a ton of fun. I highly recommend it.
I've not seen it.
Yeah,
Have you heard of this one, John? Because this is one that is kind of more well known.
I have not heard it. No.
My number two is Naked Gun 33 and a third, The Final Insult. This is the 33rd and a third entry of the Naked Gun franchise. I believe that the previous entry was talked about on episode I wasn't here. From what I do recall, I recall obviously the first Naked Gun being the best, but the second entry being really really solid. Like both of them just had moments I was just dying from laughter. I was just trying to catch up. Uh, the Final Insult is quite a letdown compared to those two, in my opinion. I still think that like compared to a lot of other like so-called it's harsh, but so-called comedies that have released, especially maybe dare I say presently, I still think it's a lot better than a lot of comedies out there. And I would also include the 25 Naked Gun film, which I personally didn't really like. I was extremely disappointed by that film. I prefer the Final Insult more than that. So yeah, not as much pep and wit compared to the other two entries, but it's a decent watch. It's a decent watch. If you enjoy watching Naked Gun films, you haven't seen this one, why not? Why not?
Yeah, this is one where I felt like they had run out of their best material and were just struggling to keep that same 100 joke a minute formula, while also making fun of everything that they were doing. Here they go to the Oscars, and that can be fun. Um,
That was some of the most fun stuff with some of the Oscar stuff, I will say.
mm-hmm. Yeah, there are some like really fun jokes, but yeah, it is like with any other comedy stuff. It's hit or miss. And for me personally, it was mostly a miss. So I don't think about this one too much.
Yeah, this is one where I did enjoy. I was just looking at my Letterboxd review, and there's apparently something that I had forgotten about until I was reading this. But yeah, I put in my review. I could never imagine a real Price Waterhouse and Cooper rep getting distracted, leading to something going wrong with the Best Picture envelope. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, I watched this in preparation for the 2025 one, and I did enjoy parts of this. Um, there are moments where I think the first two movies have aged surprisingly well for comedies released in the 80s and 90s. This one has not. There are a handful of jokes here that feel a little more mean-spirited towards specific groups of people that, yeah, again, it was very much of the time, but yeah, it's a bit more difficult to watch nowadays with more understanding.
Sorry, I'm just laughing. This is I put this at number 2. There's nothing necessarily. I'm not. Yeah, I just didn't watch a lot this year, and then some of you people took some awesome films on your list. Yeah, I just find it funny. Where it's like there is enjoyment to be had, but yeah, my list isn't the strongest this year. I will
Christopher,
say.
you could have
What?
asked to take some of ours.
No, because you, Mr. John, would have not budged.
What are you talking about? I could budge.
You would let me take your number 1?
See,
Moving on.
you-
What's your number 2?
my number
Oh,
2.
actually, my bad. I meant your number 2. I didn't realize what your number 1 was. Sorry. Sorry.
I maybe could have let you have number 2. My number 2 is The Shawshank Redemption. Yeah, it's the story about the guy who may or may not have murdered his wife. He's sent to prison. It's really about his prison life during this time period. Yes, so this is one that you hear all the time, and I assume IMDb had an influence in this. It's like, oh, it's the
Yeah.
best film ever made. I was hearing teachers talk about it, and then I watched it. It was like, yeah, that's a pretty solid film. It was, it was one of the harder films that I've seen at the time, specifically in high school when I watched it, because it got into some topics that I'd never really seen in films or TV up until that point, specifically when it comes to some of the more rougher aspects of jail life. So that was impactful thing to see. But yeah, it's this really strong, powerful story. There's redemption in the title. Andy Dufresne trying to get his freedom, walking through crap, miles of crap. You have, the role that I wouldn't say it's the role that made Morgan Freeman famous, but it's like it is one of his most iconic roles out there. Um, yeah, it's just a pretty powerful story of prison life, adapting to the times, and then some of the consequences of stuff that happens. I don't want to get into specifics because if you've not seen this film, watch it at some point. It's a pretty solid one. So, yeah.
Yeah, this is one that, again, similar to you, John, I was familiar with it through Reputation, and I actually saw it for a college course. And I don't remember a ton about it, but I gave it 4 stars on a heart on Letterboxd, so I must have liked it quite a bit. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say because, again, it's been several years it's been 8 years since I've seen it, so
Mhm.
almost a day.
Yeah.
So the 2nd of May 2018.
Wow.
It's been a while for me, but with one of us, we've seen this recently. Is that correct?
Yeah, I picked up a copy. I did that last month with Schindler's List, and I did that with a Shawshank Redemption because I'm like, why not? Why not? As much as I do like discovering films that you guys haven't seen, again, movies like Schindler's List and Shawshank Redemption have been at people's best of lists forever, and I'm kind of like, I'm doing this. Why not? I just watch it, and then also to contribute to conversation that happens here. So yeah, pretty solid film. John was talking about like the harsh aspects of prison life, and I thought this movie was very tastefully done
Mm, mm.
because I feel like, especially at least from what I see with modern sensibilities, there's this kind of spirit that's like you have to experience everything to feel everything. You have to, especially as it relates to like the hardships. You're not going to get the full impact unless you see everything. And this film knows how to introduce a subject, but it knows also when to pull back because it knows how to give you the impact of the situation, and it doesn't have to torture you beyond what is necessary. Um, it's not to say that it's an easy watch. No, it's not. But I think like it presents everything quite tastefully, in my opinion. It still is an R-rated film, but like,
Yeah.
like some sometimes I get annoyed when people watch an R-rated film like, wow, they didn't go to the full potential of an R-rated film. It's like, no, it's not always about going to the max grosses potential. It's about telling a story and what does that story need. So, and I think this film just has the right balance. Um, and yeah, and again, sometimes you hear about films where there's a lot of love for, and it's nice to watch a film that satisfies. You watch and you're like, yeah, that was a good watch. So I am glad that I did take the time to watch it this month. Um, Still probably processing some thoughts that I haven't fully processed yet, but overall, pretty solid film.
Before we move on to our number ones, why don't we talk about our honorable mentions?
Yeah. So I put mine in alphabetical order. So first up is Black Is, Black Ain't. This is the final film by documentarian Marlon Riggs. Was completed after he passed away due to complications from AIDS, and is just an exploration of Black American identity through his perspective and then the perspective of various sort of experts and people in the community. And yeah, it's very touching. Chungking Express. This is my favorite of the Wong Kar Wai films that I have seen. It is two different stories of the dumbest, in a charming way, people in the world falling in love. Very, very funny. Clerks, a low budget debut for Kevin Smith. It's far from perfect, but I found it enjoyable overall. Lots of fun stuff going on. Um, then I have In the Mountains of Madness. This is John Carpenter film, Lovecraft inspired. I literally just watched it. And it's just very weird and odd and fun horror, Lovecraftian, which I always enjoy that vibe. Then I have Once Were Warriors, which is the story about the struggles of a Maori family living in 90s New Zealand. And it dwells in misery in a way that I found a little bit tough to engage with, sort of the opposite of what Christopher was saying about Shawshank Redemption. But the last 20 ish minutes really bring it all together in a very beautiful way. And one of the absolute best title drops I've ever seen. The emotional impact of like where they use the title is just, oh, it's so perfect. Um, and speaking of sort of Polynesian culture, I have Rapa Nui, which is a historical epic about Easter Island. It's fun. It falls just shy of being very good and is just more so like good. But it is also just really cool to see a Hollywood blockbuster that like not only doesn't have any white characters in the lead roles, there isn't even like the Europeans don't even show up. There's like a brief mention of them in like the opening title of like this is before they showed up, but it isn't even an apocalypto of like, oh, they're on the horizon. No, it's just it takes place entirely within this this culture in a way that I found very interesting. Then I have Reality Bites. This is sort of a talking Gen X coming of adulthood dramedy, um, early breakout for Ben Stiller. And yeah, I really liked it. I wish it didn't focus so much on the love triangle, but I liked everything else. And then last up, I have Serial Mom. This is a John Waters film that asks, what if a suburban mom was secretly a serial killer? It is so much fun. It loses some of its momentum the longer it goes on, but just so much fun overall, with a really, really good Kathleen Turner performance as the titular serial killer mom.
I've not seen any of this.
Um, quick question: have you
Yes.
seen Dogma or not?
I have not, no.
Okay. Well, I didn't love Dogma, so I've been very hesitant on watching Kevin Smith since.
He's
So,
yeah, he is a I haven't seen actually I don't think I've seen any of his films besides Clerks. Clerks is the one that I think most people agree is pretty solid.
okay.
And then after that it's a little bit rockier and people have different opinions on different things. And so yeah, that is like, if you're gonna watch one, Clerks is the one to watch. It's sort of the maybe the most
Accessible.
yeah, the most like, not laid back is the wrong term, but it's like the smallest scale, the like, yeah, yeah.
Okay. I guess we'll see then.
I mean, yeah, it isn't
Yeah.
one you have to see. It's fun. The premise is it follows the day in the life of a gas station, or not gas station, a convenience store clerk, and then who is his convenience store is next door to a video rental store, and he's good friends with the clerk from there, and they interact, and there's various things going on. And yeah, it's fun, but yeah, I'm not going to say it's a masterpiece or anything.
hmm from this list, I have seen Chungking Express. I would say between Chungking Express and Fallen Angels, I was able to vibe with Chungking Express a little more, but
Okay,
I'm
yeah,
not fully on Wong Kar-wai's wavelength.
yeah.
So maybe one day I'll get it, but it is an enjoyable watch. But I do feel disconnected.
Yeah, I am similar with a lot of Wong Kar Wai. Even rewatching Chungking Express for this podcast, I was like, "Oh, this isn't working as well as I remembered it were." Though part of that is I've just been watching a lot of movies recently, so it's like things aren't hitting as strong as they maybe would be otherwise. But yeah,
Yeah,
this is of his films. This is the one where I felt the most enjoyment from it.
yeah, I was planning on rewatching this, but I I wasn't very productive in this past month. I just wasn't in like that
Yeah,
good of a mood to be productive, so it didn't happen, unfortunately. There was
it was actually
another
your
film.
message that because there's a
Yes.
specific date. So your message that you sent on that specific date that is referenced in the film. I was like, oh, I forgot about that. And I was like, well, I'm not doing anything else this afternoon, so I decided to rewatch it.
Yeah. I think like I I probably watched a movie that morning or got up late enough, and then I saw the date and like, frick, can't do it. Oh, so didn't happen. um, yeah. So there was another Korean film I was gonna watch from the archive channel because there's 4 films from '94, but I was only able to watch 3. So one of those other ones is A Rosy Life, or on Letterboxd, it's just Rosy Life. What do I say about this film? It's about a woman who owns like this comic book store, and like there are a lot of people who like it's like a third space of sorts where people, a lot of men like to hang out like late night, and so we kind of start to like see the stories of like 3 men. Um, this place kind of means something to them, but there's again just disconnect. I don't fully know what this film is trying to communicate, honestly. because there's at least one very difficult scene in there that really quickly soured my mood on the film, and and I have thoughts about like how the movie ended, where I can kind of understand, and I also just flat out don't understand. So I'm very mixed about this film, honestly. So I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to do some reading. I could probably
Okay.
look into maybe like I know of like a pop like the Wikipedia of South Korea. I don't know if that Wikipedia page would have information I could read into. Um, I just haven't looked into it. I could probably do this for all three of these Korean films, man. There's just a disconnect of
Yeah, yeah.
I just don't know.
And sometimes things just don't translate well, or yeah, there's something that doesn't fully pass through the cultural filter.
Yeah.
Well, moving on to my honorable mentions. First up, we have the Roger Corman, The Fantastic Four film that had such a troublesome history of filmmaking where they made this film and then it was a tax write off, essentially. Kind of. They made it for rights issues. It's interesting. Look that story up for your own sake. But it's a real shame because I bet this would have been a bangers '90s TV movie because they really got the Fantastic Four right with this. Like they nailed the casting, they nailed the look of the costumes. Like they weren't afraid. The story was simple enough that they, they could make do with what they had. It's not perfect, but again, it was simple enough for their scale. And it's such a shame that these actors got roped into this film that they thought was going to be released, but never was meant to. Um, yeah, you can watch it now. People have found it. It's on YouTube. There's some upscaled versions, and it's a decent one. I mean, yeah, yeah. It's still '90s effects for TV movies, so it's still not fantastic, but it is still, you know, for the time, they did a solid job. Uh, then we have Godzilla versus Space Godzilla. I can't tell you what happens in this one. Godzilla fights Space Godzilla. I know there's Baby Zilla in this one. I thought he was cute. Um, Besides that, I cannot tell you what happens. Unfortunately. Then we have Stargate, the Roland Emmerich film that pretty much Atlantis copied the plot of for their film. Um, yeah, that's that's fun. This led to like multiple TV shows with like 10 season long stuff that you, I'm interested to get into. But again, 10 seasons for each of those shows. So much time and commitment.
My
Um,
mom has done the full Stargate, I believe.
Good for her. She was probably watching in live. I don't know. Um,
No, no, she watched it in retrospect.
okay, how long did it take her?
Oh, I don't know, probably several years to get through everything.
Yeah, that's the problem. It takes so long. Uh,
Oh, this has the actor from the Crying Game in it.
maybe
I
I
had
don't
forgotten
know.
about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
one of
yeah.
his
They,
only
they
other roles.
they travel through Stargate to like the pyramids of a distant planet, and there's all that stuff going on. Then we have Clear and Present Danger, the third of the Jack Ryan films, the last one with Harrison Ford. It's got Willem Dafoe in it. Um, uh, yeah, I can't tell you what happens in this film either. Um, stuff happens. Then we have The Mask with Jim Carrey. To me, this is a go-to Jim Carrey film. I watched this a lot when I was younger, for the wacky mask antics. Um, it was fun. It's wacky. It is pure Jim Carrey. It's entertaining. Yeah. Then we have Pulp Fiction by Quentin Tarantino. I'm sure this one's gonna like anger some people for being just an honorable mention, but too bad I don't have the strong feelings as they do. Um, it is fun. It's entertaining. It's got iconic lines, but it's not mine. It's not mine. It's not from my list. Then we have Speed, the Keanu Reeves film where you drive a bus super fast and if you go slow, you die. Yeah, that's a fun action one. And lastly, I have the Santa Claus with Tim Allen. I watched this one a lot as a kid, loved it. I love the Santa Claus lore in this one. Unfortunately, later entries have kind of ruined that, but I still think this first one's really fun. I think they nailed the look of Santa. I think Tim Allen does a good job.
Yeah, of these I have seen, I really need to see Stargate. I'm just looking at a clip right now, and it's like, oh, this is up my alley, just like visuals wise. But yeah, I have seen The Mask, which I won't talk about too much now because I'm gonna save my Jim
Yeah.
Carrey thoughts for later. And then Pulp Fiction. I am disappointed that this wasn't on your top five, just because I wanted it to be on one of our top fives, because it
Hey,
is a film that I have a lot of fondness for. But I understand that you don't have that same
I was
fondness
waiting
for it
for
as
you to do it. I was waiting for
Yeah,
someone to
Jay,
do
be the
it.
change you want to see in this world.
I had stuff that I felt was more up my alley than Pulp Fiction. Also, like, it's been very interesting the last maybe 6 months, year, seeing the response to Quentin Tarantino and like people realizing that he's a bit of an odd guy with some very loud and not always great opinions. Seeing people kind of turn on him. So yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with Pulp Fiction, but yeah, good movie.
The only film I've seen in these honorable mentions is the Santa Claus, which I saw for my first time last December. It's really funny because you see Tim Allen at the beginning of the film, and you never think this man would ever look like Santa Claus, and then he looks so convincingly like Santa Claus by the end of the film.
Yeah,
It's unbelievable.
yeah. He straight up murders Santa Claus in this one and takes his
Oh yeah,
place.
he does. Yeah,
So wild.
it's a silly little time.
It
I
is.
bet it brings in the holiday spirit for people.
It did for a long time. Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing that there are two Santa Claus films. In
Three.
that three? What's the third one?
Plus a
Santa
TV
Claus
show.
3.
No, 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 no. I was talking about Miracle of 34th Street
Oh, on the
this
list.
year. This year,
I
yeah, yes. Sorry, yeah. Kind of interesting. I guess two random people randomly become Santa Claus, basically, in these films.
Well,
Nice.
Do you think about it?
yeah, Miracle on 34th Street is Santa Claus becomes Macy's Santa Claus. This one is the opposite of random guy becomes Santa Claus.
But it's still like we see the Santa Claus origins in both of these.
Not really
You can
Miracle
kinda
on
know what it
34th Street. He's already an established.
Semantics. But moving on
Yes.
to our number one.
Wait. Sorry. What do you mean established?
Because Miracle on 34th Street, it is what if the real Santa Claus became like the mall Santa Claus? Like they hired him to be the mall Santa Claus.
I completely forgot about that. I'm learning about this film as we talk, guys. I'm so sorry.
Your third favorite movie, and you don't remember the basic
Nope.
plot.
Nope. I just remember there's Santa and everyone's happy at the end of the film, basically.
You can tell we're professionals, guys.
There's a whole Ace Attorney style court case in the third act.
I remember because the thing I remember like
a reindeer into court.
oh my goodness, I forgot about that. Yeah, I just remember like the judgment proclamation. Basically, that's the most memorable thing about the film for me personally. Oh my goodness, wow. Obviously, Jay's seen the film.
I've seen it
handful of
many
times.
times.
Yeah, I
over the
saw it
years and
once 12 years ago.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I just looked it up, and on Letterboxd I saw it in 2022, and I've maybe seen
Oh,
it since
wow.
then as well. So, and
Wow.
obviously saw it quite a few times before that. But yeah, Um, on to number one. My number one is Heavenly Creatures. This is directed by Peter Jackson, written by Jackson and Fran Walsh. And this is inspired by the true story of two teenage girls growing up in New Zealand in the 1950s and follows their lives in the lead up to a murder that they commit. Um, and so, just to set the scene, we have a director who has previously only done zany horror comedies, and this story that was incredibly sensationalized at the time in the news. Like, these girls were called like pure evil. Um, and yeah, so Christopher and I recently were talking off mic about the documentary Beware the Slender Man, which I turned off halfway through because I found its approach to the subjects really unsettling. Like, one of my biggest issues with true crime as a genre, especially in stories involving minors, is how it sensationalizes stories and disregards the privacy and even sometimes the humanity of the real people involved. Um, so yeah, that's going into this movie, both the like, this is Peter Jackson's first sort of more serious adult drama. I have my own issues with the true crime genre in general. What completely blew me away about this film is the empathy that it shows. This is a film that challenges the audience to see things from the perspective of these girls while also not justifying what they did. This isn't a film that's trying to frame what they did as correct, but it is a film that is trying to get the audience to understand how they got to that point and what was going on inside their heads. And yeah, it's already rare to see a film portray teen girls with this level of interiority, but I'm just completely in awe of what they pull off here. Because yeah, as I was saying, these girls at the time, they were being called in the press pure evil, and so to see this like deeply empathetic portrayal of them, and I was reading a little bit about the background of this, that this was intentional. Jackson and Walsh were like doing research and were finding all of these like um contemporary pieces that were like just absolutely sensationalized and just not considering the humanity of these girls at all. So they actually went and like talked to people who knew them at the time. um there's the narration of this is based on the diaries of one of the girls, and it's just like, yeah, it's just so well observed and so empathetic in a way that, yeah, you don't necessarily expect that from the director whose previous film was Brain Dead, a movie about a guy and a bunch of zombies that is just so over the top gore and fun and hilarious and violent. And then to see this one, just like, it's so perfectly constructed and well made. um and it's like, yeah, they decided to focus mainly on the friendship between these two girls. The murder is comes very late in the film. There's nothing about the aftermath of that. So it's just, again, the approach they take is just so perfect. And on top of all of this, this is like fantastic debut performances from Melanie Linsky and Kate Winslet. You know, these incredible actresses who are giving these like incredible performances at this very young age. And then we also have some really cool stylistic elements that I don't want to spoil because I didn't know them going in, and watching like what they do here. It's just, it's, yeah, it's incredible. I was hoping to enjoy this when I sat down to watch this. I was not expecting to love this as much as I did, and to be just blown away by, again, the word that comes to mind for this is empathy. Of like, yeah, how do you present this story in a way that is empathetic while also still acknowledging like the harm that was done in this actual tragedy. And yeah, no, they somehow pull off this like incredible tightrope act of doing both of those things and not sensationalizing things. Yeah, it's incredible. I would highly recommend it if you haven't seen it.
My number one, I put on The Crow. Yeah, it's not my favorite film. I will say again, to some degree, I'm listing movies I've seen. But ultimately, of the movies that I've chose for my list, I'd say The Crow would be my favorite here. Um, I do recall it being, fun and stylistic, and I definitely think with its style, it, it the style really kind of, I feel like, really makes the film. Um, it really makes the film be a singular force and a unique force, and there are moments that you kind of can't forget, um, because how infused with style they are. I did watch this film in preparation for the Believe 24 Crow, which I think for me, in comparison to kind of what this original Crow film is, the new one just, I would have just preferred the new one to be completely disassociated. Like I think I would have seen the newer film in a better light if it was completely unrelated. But I kind of hate the fact that it is of this supposed to be of the same origin. It's kind of interesting how we all can kind of view films sometimes so tied into something else, whether appropriately or not, and make judgments based off that. Ultimately, yeah, I don't like the 24 Crow, because of those reasons. But yeah, this Crow has aura, as peak 1994 aura. um, yeah, I think Jay might have some deeper things to say about this film. I don't know. Reading your review, I was like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot about those things.
Yeah, no, I was struck by, being aware of the reputation of this film and sort of um this edgy type film, the goth aesthetics, the sort of the violence, and then obviously the real life tragedy behind it.
Hmm.
So I went in kind of expecting a bit more of that, but I found that much like The Matrix, this has a reputation to it that is based mostly on the aesthetics, whereas underneath the aggressive rock and the constant rain and the brooding and the violence and all of that, this is ultimately a story about the importance of human connection and of love and hope in a world that seems devoid of it. Yeah, again, that is like the kind of sappy sentimental stuff that you don't necessarily associate with this film or with the Matrix, but that is the heart of this, and why it has endured for so long is that yes, it has the edgy aesthetics over top of it, but the core of this is something that is more universal and more sentimental.
I have not seen The Crow.
I assume you are familiar with this one at least.
I'm familiar by reputation, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm. But moving on to my number one, I have Forrest Gump. Yes, this is probably my favorite Tom Hanks film. Uh,
Oh,
I, yeah, I watched it the most because Tom Hanks. Um, I, I was introduced to this in high school, or sorry, middle school. We had that professor who showed us this in
yeah,
class one
yeah.
time as like an example of history something. I don't know. There was a point they were making. I, I
Yeah,
was
it
just
would have been for our American history class, so just sort of like a quick overview of sort of these decades through
yeah.
the 20th century.
Yeah, and that's like a fun thing that this film has going for it. It's this one man experiencing history, being unbothered, unaffiliated with any of the tragedies or deep psychology of it all. He's just a man, uh, like a leaf in the feather in the wind, just being blown about, enjoying life, being unbothered, experiencing so much. I I relate so hard to the character Forrest Gump. I find him so fascinating to watch. I wish I could have his unbothered reaction to everything where it's like, yep, he's just enjoying life one step at a time, doesn't really have too much going on that's like a deep struggle. He does, but it's not the thing that defines him. This one also has like a great side character in Lieutenant Dan, and I like the great transformation that that character goes through, and it definitely had an impact on the actor. Can you remind me of his name?
Gary Sinise.
Yes.
I have the cast list pulled up. I wouldn't have been able to pull it up that quickly just from
Yeah, yeah, pretty fun cast list. Yeah, like pretty solid cast list. Yeah, a story that goes through many different places. You know, we got life is like a box of chocolates. He's sitting on a bench at one point. He's in Vietnam at another point. He's on the ocean, shrimping. He's running across America. A lot of stuff going on, playing ping pong. He gets to meet so many historical figures. He gets to meet John Lennon. How exciting for him. Uh,
memory.
yeah, no. This just a lot of fun, a fun journey, and has like an emotional ending as well that comes full circle, and one that I really enjoy returning to. It is one of my favorite films ever. So, yeah.
Yeah, I have not seen this since the watching it in middle school for this history class. So it's one that I feel like I do need to revisit at some point just because I have heard such a spectrum of opinions on it, and people who love it for what it is, people who hate it for what it is, people who love it for something that it maybe is and maybe isn't, some people who take it not as like a straightforward film but instead as a satire. Um so yeah, I don't feel like I know enough about it, having not seen it recently, to have a smart comment on it. Um, but yeah, I mean, won Best Picture, iconic Tom Hanks role. He won Best Actor 2 years, or because he won for Philadelphia, right?
Maybe. I don't know.
And then he wins for Forrest Gump. So like, yeah, pretty incredible achievement there.
I saw Forrest Gump once, and I kind of just remember kind of just having like a smile on my face. It kind of just feels like on the surface, just like the ultimate like American feel good film. Kind of. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. That's kind of all the thoughts I really have. Like I just remember kind of leaving the film with a smile. Yeah, yeah. It's a solid film indeed.
Also, before we move on, I am going to quick check my. Yes, he won the Oscars back to back years. Oh yeah, because for Philadelphia, that's the speech that he gave that then inspired the movie In and Out.
The burger
But yeah, to
joint.
win. Sorry.
The burger joint.
Yes, yes, the burger joint, not the Frank Oz movie, the restaurant.
Well, let's move on to sour the mood with our least favorite films.
Yeah, so mine, I do want to give a little bit of a preamble for. Mine is Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. This is not a bad movie by any means. It's just my least favorite of what I've seen for this year. Um, a little bit of background: after enjoying watching Jim Carrey and the Sonic the Hedgehog movies, I was interested in seeing a film that is just entirely on his shoulders. I didn't grow up with The Grinch or really any of his films. I may have seen something in there at some point, but that wasn't like, we weren't a Jim Carrey household. Um and yeah, this just this much concentrated Jim Carrey, because this is his movie. Even like the mask is like he's playing levels of Jim Carreyness. This is just pure Jim Carrey 100% of the way through.
Mm-hmm.
um there's no hedgehog to take time away from him. It's just you are with him the whole time and he is doing his thing the whole time. It's just not quite my cup of tea. I would probably enjoy it more if I saw it like with friends or in a theater or something. But yeah, he makes funny faces, and I find that funny for a little bit, and then he keeps making funny faces, and I'm like, okay. And then yeah, the other thing with this one is that there is a twist involving a transgender character that
Yeah.
just has not aged well at all. It's just incredibly gross and lacking in empathy. I don't want to like moralize too much because again, this was the '90s, and like as I alluded to earlier, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, a movie that is very empathetic in how it portrays a trans woman. It also has a nasty running gag about someone intentionally dead naming her. So it's like even in the movies that were good portrayals of trans characters, there were still issues. Um, but yeah, this one is just and it is baked into the plot in a way that you can't quite ignore it the way you kind of can with Naked Gun 3. Um, yeah, this is one of the worst examples of transphobia in media that I have seen. Um, just very unfortunate, and kind of has become the thing that this is known for, at least in sort of internet circles. Like the memes are obviously like, yeah, there are a lot of memes from this, but I feel like that is sort of what is its reputation has become.
So I had like obviously grown up liking Jim Carrey, and this was always one that like I'd hear it's like, oh, it's quintessential Jim Carrey Pet Detective. I'm like, yeah, cool, but I had never really seen or had the opportunity to see. I think I saw it for the first time earlier this year or late
Oh
last year.
wow.
Yes, so a long time. Like I of course have seen people quote it. I've seen people imitate Jim Carrey. A lot
There
of
there were so many moments in this where I was like, oh, that's where that is from.
yes. Yes.
Specific quotes and specific like faces that he pulls. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize these were all this one movie.
Mhm. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, well this is obviously, it's got to be good, right? And then I didn't enjoy it. I I was not expecting it to be as raunchy as it was. I don't know what I was expecting. I was like, "Oh, Jim Carrey, yeah, that's what I expected." But it was so much more raunchy, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I didn't really care for the story or the character, and I'm like, "Man, if I was a fan of the Dolphins, maybe I enjoy this a whole lot more." Um, but yeah, no, this is not going to be the last time we talk about Ace Ventura in our 90 list,
Okay.
unfortunately. Um,
I
yeah.
will say my biggest takeaway from this, beyond what I already said, is that I'm pretty sure that Ace Ventura is like some sort of like all powerful deity in like a Lovecraftian sense of like just the way that he interacts with the world just gives the vibe of like a being that is like has so much more power than they are letting out and is just like kind of having fun,
Yeah.
but has like the other thing I was thinking of is it's like the player character in a video game, if you were like one of the NPCs of the video game and just watching this person like run around and do weird things and be like, what is up with that guy?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, with this, Jim Carrey is a national treasure.
Oh, yeah,
He's like,
you completely understand watching this why he became a star, because it's like this is like nothing that had existed at that time,
yeah.
and it's just so concentrated. It's like, yeah, of course, if you want more of this, the only way to get more of this is to get more Jim Carrey movies.
Yeah. I think some films use him better than others.
Yeah,
This one,
yeah.
I think he's going all out, but man, I wish it was in a different film, in a different story. Yeah. So, yeah, I agree.
I put as my least favorite film a Korean movie called Rules of the Game. It's about a man who, is feels like he's at the bottom, but then he hears an opportunity to join a gang, so he becomes a gangster, and then gangster life. And I think this film is basically supposed to be like a cautionary tale of sorts of, ooh, this is not good. Um, so in some ways, I was able to read this film better than A Rosy Life. Rosy Life, I'm mixed about, so I kind of put in this like I don't know corner, but I feel like I've deduced rules of the game. Um, yeah, so like I said, I do feel like it is kind of like this cautionary tale, but I also do feel like it's so focused on just like what a terrible lifestyle it is to live as like one of these gangsters, and that's the movie. Bad lifestyle, bad gangster lifestyle. The movie, and I just don't think it's that strong. It doesn't. I mean, obviously, it doesn't work for me, but I also just it's all subjective, of course. But I don't know. Maybe it's just because there are so many gangster films and so many I have not seen that I don't know. This seems a little too baked into um like just bad behaviors, and it doesn't necessarily ever feel glorified, but it's also it just is so heavy. Like women are pretty awfully treated, and I can't also in terms of filming the film, I can't imagine that it was that kind in filming as well. And it just like again, I do understand its approach, but I just don't like its approach. Basically, ironically, though, out of the 3 Korean films I've seen for this year, this is the one film that does not include rape. So the
Oh.
other 2 do. So so somehow the bad gangster film from my recollection doesn't actually have rape in it. So not to say that women aren't, like I said, women are pretty roughly treated in this film, but
Mhm.
somehow it doesn't have rape. So who knows? I could be completely remembering wrong. Maybe we're 3 for 3, but the other 2 films, again, like I kind of alluded to Rosie Life, that's actually kind of the main issue I kind of immediately had with A Rosie Life pretty early on, and kind of it makes it hard for me to judge that film. Um, even the Tibet Mountains film. I don't know. It's interesting, man. It's interesting. So this one I feel less disconnect to. Again, maybe there's something I'm not fully getting, but I also just feel like it's kind of run of the mill. Bad lifestyle, don't do this, kids. But let's show you how bad it is. By, especially the women around here, So I don't know. I don't necessarily want to say it leaves a terrible taste in my mouth. It's just more unpleasant, you
Mhm.
know.
Well, moving on to my least favorite film of the year, we have Junior, which is the premise.
What is this?
The premise is like, what if Arnold Schwarzenegger got pregnant, and um,
Arnold Schwarzenegger and Prague. Got
yeah,
gotta.
yeah, that's it. So, all right, it's supposed to be like a heart, a sweet comedy with the comedy not really working. You have Danny DeVito and Schwarzenegger, and they're a fun duo. But man, this I don't
They
know.
look so much alike. I can never tell them apart.
Yeah, they're like twins.
Yeah,
Um,
someone should make a movie
Oh my
about
gosh.
that.
yeah, somebody should. Um, yeah, most of it, the comedy is like, oh, being pregnant sucks. It hurts. I got all these emotions and menopause and all that, and it's like, all right, well, that's that's all right. That's fine. And it's a man feeling all these things. There's a point where it's like, the government doesn't want me to have this baby, so he hides out at a fertility, I don't know, a place where a place where the women are pregnant, and he has to dress up as a very tall woman. Um,
Hey, that's like Total Recall.
yeah, right, yeah. There's some nightmare fuel in this. I don't know how to describe this film.
Arnold Schwarzenegger and Prague.
Yeah, and like yeah, it wants to be very sweet and happy and like being like, "Hey, guys can get pregnant too." I guess I don't know. I don't know. It's doing. I don't know. I don't care. It wasn't very funny. It was disappointing. It's not the worst thing I've seen, but it is a film. There you go.
It
Yeah.
genuinely throws me off, man. Like we do our best movies, and I'm like, wow, wasn't that a sweet little time? And we go through the worst films, Oh my goodness, John. Why are you so ruinous with the structure, man? Oh my goodness.
Hey,
You're a little agent of chaos in a calm, sweet way.
little
It's
agent of
so annoying.
chaos. It's an unfortunate thing that started 10 years ago when we first started this podcast, and because we like consistency, we've never changed this aspect. Um,
Yeah, but why did you do it in the first place, John?
uh, because it made sense.
Yeah,
That
and that was often how top 5 and top 10 lists were structured.
yeah,
At least that I was watching around the time of like you do up till number 2, and then you do honorable mentions, and then you do number 1, and then you have time for a worst or something.
it's a
It's just so
it's a structure that makes sense. It's just like we have to end this thing with such a bummer. um,
it's just so funny because you're talking about like heavenly creatures and Forrest Gump, and then you have Junior, and I'm staring at this freaking frame of baby Schwarzenegger. I'm like, what is this? What is this, John?
you should watch it. Maybe you have.
No, I don't want to. I honestly don't. I don't want to. I don't like that frame. It's scarier than any horror film I've seen recently. I'd rather rewatch Hokum.
So okay, so weird thing about Schwarzenegger when he's dressed up as a lady, he looks like my aunt for some reason. And so the entire time I was watching that part of the film, I'm like, this is tripping me because looks just like my aunt. That's interesting. Are we related to the Schwarzenegger somehow? Who knows?
Maybe.
Maybe. Well, that's what we have for 1994. What did you think of my hypothesis of the best films coming forward?
I mean, this was a weird year for me because, like I said, I had a top 5 that I felt really good about, which hasn't been true for the last couple years. That I had a top 5 that I felt good about very early on. So yeah, I don't mind. I think that is a relatively accurate statement.
It is a statement. There are great films this year, but
like Junior.
they like Junior. But yeah,
I don't know, John. With a film like Junior in this year, that's a strong argument to make, in my opinion.
it's a strong argument.
I'm sorry,
to
guys.
make.
I'm just freaked out by this frame. Oh my goodness.
Stop looking at the baby.
Fine, I will stop.
I would like to see. The
Maybe
baby.
Junior isn't so
I
bad
would like
after
to
all.
not see the baby.
Anyway,
I mean, if IMDb says Shawshank is the best film, then you're probably right, John.
yeah. Anyway, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.